Maverick News, the antivirus program for your mind. And now, the Freedom Reporters.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Maverick News channel. Great to have everyone here. Thanks for your patience. We're starting late tonight. All kinds of crazy things happening around here today, but we are live finally, and we're bringing back one of your favorites and mine, Gail. Hello, Gail Robertson. Welcome back. And your microphone is muted, by the way, just to let you know.
There you go. All right, unmuted. Yes, I was. How did I unmute? Hello, everyone.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad you're here tonight. I really need the support and your insight, your wisdom, your perspective, because it's crazy out there. We have these protests on college campuses in the U.S. spreading. We have politics on fire with Pierre Poilievre visiting an Axe the Tax. I'm going to call it an Axe the Tax convoy protest yesterday, and Justin Trudeau having a meltdown over that, as are many other people. And we're going to dig into all of that tonight. And Gail, thank you so much for joining us on the program.
You're welcome. And as you know, as someone who used to work in the media like yourself, I often look at things, or I try to look at things through that lens. So try to be as nonpartisan and try to look at what is happening when you can try to find balance in this very upside down world right now.
And it is upside down, and we will try to make sense of why it's upside down when we come back right after this. Don't go away.
The information war is raging. Truth without integrity is worth nothing. Maverick News. Because those who have power and those who seek it must be held accountable.
The world is watching.
Join our family of truth seekers. Donate today and add your voice to the chorus of Maverick Knights. Donate at maverickdonations.com. Truth. Integrity. It's the Maverick way. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, 23 days we have seen people sitting on the sides of highways in, I would say, strategic locations across the country. Border points between provinces is where they've been focusing their attention. 23 days, and then Pierre Poilievre, out with his entourage out in eastern Canada. He's between which provinces was it?
Brunswick and Nova Scotia.
Nova Scotia. And he says to his driver, oh, should I say turn right? Or should I say turn left?
Pull over.
Pull over. There's a bunch of, I don't think he said this, but Justin Trudeau said he said this. He said, there's a bunch of Diagolon people over there, my kinfolk. gotta go over there and say howdy. So it didn't happen that way. But he did say, pull over, and we have to go say hi to these people. And so before we run the video, what do you think of that, Gail?
Well, my guess is it wasn't completely random, but as I work in public relations as well, so I'm sure this was strategic. But having said that, I think one of the things that happened here is that he stopped to talk to some people who have concerns. They are not happy, regardless of whether they're connected to the convoy at Ottawa, whether like the whole Diagolon, Alex Jones, attacks that are coming out. That's what seems to be the most off-putting to me, is that this, because Alex Jones posted something about supporting Pierre Poilievre, so now all of a sudden Pierre Poilievre is supporting him, right? So there's just way too much attacks here, as opposed to looking and, what I'm going to say, getting curious and asking why. Mm-hmm. This is what's missing. And I think what's happening with the Conservatives now is that they are embracing that part of curiosity and, going to talk to people that are upset. And I thought it was interesting when, Justin Trudeau, I had it somewhere here, where he was saying, this, causing division and, all this strife, when that's exactly what happened during 2020, at the start of the pandemic, when it was those people, and categorizing anybody who disagreed with the mandate. And this had nothing actually to do with the vaccine. There were people that were opposed to the mandates, and all of a sudden they were right wing. And, and I'm someone, and people, I've talked about this a lot. I'm always concerned about mandates. When you try to force anything, and anybody that's done parenting, and I think try to do it the right way. I mean, if you try to force your child to do something, it's probably going to backfire. It's much better to try to set boundaries and, find those teachable moments. But attacking and forcing is never healthy.
Yeah, so let's run the video. There are a number of videos from this, spur of the moment visit to this Axe the Tax protest, and but I think this one is the one that kind of illustrates it best. So let's let this roll. So here he is. They invited him to go into this trailer. Now, I'm going to pause this. This trailer has been around, okay? So it's true that these people are associated with the freedom movement in one way or another. And this trailer has been to many, many protests, and you'll see a lot of signatures on the door. And then there is something on the door that, some people are really focusing on. We'll see it when he comes in.
Oh, yes, go ahead.
Security, let him go first.
There's nothing in here to worry about at all.
Generator plugged in?
Oh, is the generator plugged in?
Oh, this is
playing
This is
music.
embarrassing.
It's on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never liked this place. I tried to
You want your coat? Go grab your coat, bud. Grab your coat.
Here, take this one. I just have to record it. It was
Okay.
So he's inside there. I do have another video of him in the trailer, but
I sleep right here
you'll see.
in my car.
She's leaving. We got a diesel heater in there. We got the donations from everybody that's been stopped by in there. It's cold. Yeah, exactly. Right, Kev? Oh.
Show where I sleep.
Okay, here he comes. Gonna come out. Now, here's what people are focusing on. Some people. Do you see the door?
Uh-huh.
Do you see the flag?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And you see some of the names that are on there. These are people who are, there's Chris Stacey, streamer, right? We see his stuff all the time. diagonal flag. A lot of different people signing it. Some names may be recognizable, maybe some of them aren't. But, there's the money shot for somebody. Pierre Poilievre next to the diagonal flag. It's a gotcha moment, isn't it? Kinda?
I don't see it so much that because, there's lots of things, just like I think, Trudeau has been at events and people can come up, they're wearing a shirt. I mean, it's very hard in this world to think that you're going to agree with everything. I've talked to people, I have people in my circle, people I've done selfies with, and I'm sure if you went to some of their social media, you would think, and I'm talking about all realms of politics from far left to far right. So, I believe in take the best, leave the rest. And I don't see this as something that's that
damaging.
Yeah. And someone posted here, he's trailer trash now, like one of us. One of the things that, that
well, it's true.
Following the convoy, and I remember listening, I started really looking at this from the media perspective early on. And the undertone often was this negativity about truckers, that they were dumb and they were, that they were just jumping on this bandwagon and people didn't, they didn't know what they were doing. We see it with farmers. We see it with people who don't have, university degrees. All of a sudden, these people are seen as not as smart and not able to, discern who they should vote for. And, my background, I grew up very, what would be working class, I guess. And I was probably one of the first to go to university. But I have often said this, that believe me, a university degree does not make you smart, it helps in certain areas. But I have to say, increasingly, I see that sometimes higher education can actually dull your brain, not sharpen it.
Yes, that's true.
And we see this now on, the campus, the protests on university campuses, and there's this lack of wanting to hear different viewpoints. I find that just like stunning in that and not in a good way. I mean, stunning, like that we have a university that doesn't want to hear different views.
Yes.
That's what we should be encouraging. It's funny. I'm watching Blue Bloods right now.
Okay.
And it's a really interesting study because the police commissioner, Tom Selleck, went to go speak at his granddaughter's university, Columbia.
Oh, yeah.
This was probably set, I'm at about season, I think 6. So it would have been, I don't know, maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago. I'm not sure the exact time frame, but when he went to go up to speak, all of a sudden signs came up and they chanted, and he had to walk off the stage. He couldn't speak. And I just thought, wow, it was kind of and it was about police, brutality and things like that. So it was against the police, but it was probably something that was shining a light on what was yet to come. And now we see it spread to a much greater degree. And we've seen this shouldn't be a surprise. I mean, we've seen this over the last number of years too, when different people came on campus, they were, shouted at. Riley Gaines went to go speak at a university. And I mean, she was blocked from even leaving a room. So that was the swimmer who lost to a trans swimmer, wasn't given the trophy. And I don't know if anybody follows that story, but I've been following it as an interesting case study again of how that's been covered. So anyways, gone a bit off track a bit, but just the idea that how things are also being covered by the media is also quite different. If we looked at how the Ottawa convoy was covered versus the current protests, and we're also seeing now, Pierre Poilievre, okay, he stopped to speak with some people who are upset, and all of a sudden it's blown up, but it's blown up often by media who already, I think, have an axe to grind with him. And I think my concern again is that we have to, not get caught up in buying into only following one narrative.
Let's listen to a conversation that Pierre Poilievre had, leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, for our American viewers who maybe do not understand what this is about. He is the leader of the official opposition in Canada to Justin Trudeau's ruling Liberal/NDP coalition government, which I would say is probably the furthest left-leaning government that we've ever had in this country, ever, in my view. So anyway, this is Pierre Poilievre talking to, I would say, the people who are protesting on the side of the road this carbon tax, axe the tax, carbon tax, which just added 3 cents a liter to gasoline across the country, plus all other forms of carbon fuel, additional taxation. And what is it by 2030? It's going to be, is it, how many, 30s? Another, I can't remember how much it's going to increase the price, but 30 cents, 60 cents, some crazy amount between now and then. Anyway, people are upset about it. Inflation's out of control. The economy's tanking. People are having trouble making ends meet. And here's Pierre Poilievre pulling over to talk to the people, which is something Justin Trudeau simply has refused to do.
Who's going to axe the tax?
Well, let's hope so.
Well, don't hope so. Make it so.
That's
Make
why
it
we're
so.
here.
I know you are. Mm-hmm. You don't like the tax much, I can tell. Eh?
No, I don't like it at all.
23 days here.
23 days.
Wow.
Yes.
What are your names?
My name's Gina.
Gina?
Yeah.
I'm Tasha.
Tasha?
Tommy.
Tasha, Tommy.
With
Hey, today I'm Dean. Dean.
What are the chances
Okay.
of that?
Yeah,
I know.
what are the
I thought he
chances?
was joking. I'm
Yeah.
like,
Did you see
No.
a sign? It's got a big axe, a big wooden sign when you're
Honestly,
out
we're-
on the highway.
we're not a political.
Light pole.
Yeah.
There's a big axe to tax over there. Like that.
Yeah, we're not a political. It's for everybody.
Stickers
Like,
on here.
but
I did that.
it just seemed people came axe the tax too because it's scrap the tax, and hey, we're all against the same thing.
Yeah.
We can't afford this, right? There's
Yeah.
so many homeless people, and people just can't even afford to go to the grocery store and actually grocery shop.
Yeah.
They have to decide what they're going to do. People are getting behind, and eventually they're going to be homeless or going from a nice apartment to like Skid Row just to make it.
And the sad part is, we got the majority of soy boys sitting home playing video games.
Who are the soy boys? What is a
Well,
soy boy?
I would define a soy boy as someone that's not here that would rather sit home and scratch his nuts and play video games all day. In the morning, there's an old man that comes here.
Yeah.
He's in his 70s. He parks up there in his Crown Vic at probably 6 a.m.
Yeah.
Puts his Canada flags on, gets his car ready until we wake up here around probably 7:38. He comes down. His wife's doing chemo. He'll go out there and he'll stand on the side of the road for hours and bring coffee.
Wow.
We have seniors coming from in town, seniors coming from Moncton. We have seniors just driving here. They bring chilies, they bring soups.
Mm-hmm.
They'll come in, they'll put a crock pot on, feed us. While they go out and raise a lot. While these teenagers and preteens and young adults are just sitting home playing video games, not giving a shit. The same people that built this country are the same people coming out to stand.
Yeah.
For the rest of them, they would just rather sit home and play
We do get a lot of
video games.
support on the highway.
Yes.
So there is an enormous amount of support.
Yeah.
And we're actually reaching out. There's people that probably wouldn't really step out of their comfort zone and come to a place like this. But because I think they see how peaceful and law-abiding and everything, normal people that have, some people have a business, some people have, nobody's out here that's like homeless, put it that way, at all, right? We came with 2 truckloads of food. We had enough to take care of us and other people. We didn't put out for money. We haven't had any merchandisers or any kind of grifting whatsoever. This is for the people. We don't want to take anything from anybody.
We have people
We
walking
love
on the highway
everybody.
that we're feeding breakfast to.
Yeah,
That
like
are trucking it on foot from Sackville to Amherst that we're just feeding. They stop in here, give them coffee, we feed them eggs, feed them toast, send them on his way with a full belly.
now, a lot of people are generous in bringing us food, and some giving us some money. I mean, it's not been a fortune by any means.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because we're not asking. So if somebody by the goodness of their heart shows up and that's all they have and that's what they want to do, well then
Then you take
Yes, but in no way are we asking, and we honestly we're
Where are you
okay
all
if
from?
we never get
Where are
anything.
y'all from?
I live in Amherst.
Yeah.
Live in Oxford.
I'm outside of town, 20 minutes outside.
But you're an Oilers fan.
Of course, gotta be. Gotta pick the right team.
I'm from Annapolis Valley, New Minas.
Okay.
We're all pretty much local to Nova Scotia, but I guess we picked this location as it's kind of central to the Downtown.
Yeah.
Well, that too, right?
Well, it was.
Nice sunset too, eh?
Oh, it's beautiful.
Every
Look at
night.
that.
Is there any questions you want to ask us that you want to know for people that have actually stood here and been here for 23 days and slept here? And is there anything that you actually want to know?
No, I just want you to know that I will axe the tax.
Okay.
I will axe the tax.
And you know how sad it is? The government of Nova Scotia refused to let us put a potty on the property so we didn't have to defecate and urinate on the lawn, their beautiful lawn that they love so much. So we had to beat them at their own game. We had to rent a porta potty and put it on a portable trailer so we could pull it around and beat them at their own game.
Funny.
But you know what?
Way around.
We have been getting a lot of support, even from the police. They
Yeah.
see us, they drive by, they wave and smile.
Oh, they're all on
And
side.
yeah, honestly,
The cops are good folks.
it's been amazing, really. Look,
Cops are good folks.
Now, speaking of the devil,
that's why I said, look who's coming right now.
They're following you down.
Yeah.
Here, it's been like a week.
Oh yeah, there hasn't been anything. Yeah. Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
good guys. They're very good guys. And they're
Yeah,
paying it
they
too,
are.
right?
That's
have
right.
Kids, they're trying to take their kids to hockey and pay their
Yes.
mortgages and their rent.
Yep.
Yeah.
Totally.
So that's good. But no, we were just going along the highway. I had heard about you guys on the news, and then we're traveling to Nova Scotia tonight to Stellarton from PEI, and we saw you. So I told the team, let's pull over and say hello.
probably negative, all you hear on the news, but that's
No,
to be expected. But
Everyone's on side. Everyone's happy with what you're doing.
Really.
Fighting
That's
against
awesome to
this
hear.
tax. Everyone hates the tax.
Yep.
yeah,
Because everyone's been screwed over, right?
Oh, yeah.
People believed his lies. Everything he said was bullshit,
Mm-hmm.
top to bottom. Everything he said. He was going to help the middle class. The middle class is the working poor now.
exactly.
The opposite of the middle class.
Everything. If you can't afford a home and you can't afford food, you're in poverty. So our middle class has been destroyed. I mean, you make a family making $100,000 a day, and large parts of the country can't even afford a home.
No, it's not cheap for us. It's cheaper here.
It's cheaper here, but
But the
in
houses are not
in
really
places
a lot.
around Toronto, Vancouver, Ottawa, even go to Halifax now. Try to live on 70, 80 grand.
Mm-hmm. No, you can't.
70 grand.
You really can't.
Yeah.
Can you imagine
Does
here?
your
Some
team
of us
wanna-
are only making
does
like
your team
36.
wanna Take a look inside the
Yeah, let's have a
Freedom
look here.
Mobile with the heaters and
Yeah,
stuff.
right?
Take a show
Come
around,
on in
Tina.
for a tour. Please use caution. Carbon tax
Yes.
removal in progress. Okay, we're
Wow.
Into the infamous trailer he goes.
Oh, I guess we should turn some lights on, bud.
Oh, yeah.
Turn some lights on.
You go, Dean.
Yeah.
You know where they are.
Energy.
Well, this guy-
Oh, yes, go ahead, sorry.
You let him go first.
There's nothing in here to worry about at all. Oh, is the generator plugged in?
Oh, this
We
is
were
embar-
playing
this is
music.
embarrassing.
It's on.
Still some light in there. We still see.
There's light switch right here.
Look at this. Look at this here.
There's
Like, come on now. I knew where the light switch was. I turned them on. Yeah.
Hey, thanks for putting that in there.
There we go. Light.
Don't worry about it. I'll pick it up after. No, I don't want it to fall down.
See, pretty modest.
Yeah?
Yeah,
So you guys sleep?
that's right.
Where do you sleep?
I sleep right here in my car.
She's leaving. We got a diesel heater in there. We got the donations for everybody.
Yeah, but I can show you exactly where I'm using it.
It spreads. It doesn't lay after.
But if you want to actually know where I sleep, I'll show you.
Yeah, you show them, and then I'll show them where I sleep.
You're gonna get a shower?
Yeah, the big stop.
Yeah.
Yeah, trucker shower. It's really nice, actually.
Damn, boys, I'm getting a tan.
You are getting a tan.
Oh, man.
Right?
You're like that guy. The guy who does the. What was his name again?
Hold on a sec.
seat and just put my legs through and then sleep in there.
And how do you close the trunk when you're in there?
No, I get in from the inside.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Right here, look.
Oh, I see. Okay.
See?
And you sleep back there. That's your little dog.
That's my little dog.
Wow. That's good.
And I just put my bed like at an angle. It's actually really comfortable.
I love it.
Thank you.
Nice.
That's pretty cool.
Nice little spot. So you guys are here 24/7?
Yep. 24/7.
And so when I ask the tax, then you guys are going to be able to go home.
Right on.
Yes.
How soon is that going to
Can I
be?
get a picture of you beside that?
We'll do it in front of something else. Okay.
Okay. You go first.
Well, as I was watching that, I thought what's interesting is, where are the people telling the stories? Like, listen to these people, whether you agree or disagree with them. To me, this is what media, the role of media is to ask why. Why is this happening? Like, here's a woman sleeping in her car, and here are the people that are doing this. And I think this should apply to many protests, right? Start asking why and understanding what people are doing. I've been following some of the comments too, and politics is a messy business, and I've often thought about what it would be like to run for politics, and I don't think it's in my wheelhouse to do. But one thing I do. I've said this, like running as a politician is not easy because you're going to get attacked from all sides at times, right? So then what you have to look at is, okay, who do you think, whether locally or nationally, is going to be able to carry forth your best interests or the best interest for our society? And we aren't getting a lot of that now because so much of it is just, anger and attacks on coming from all sides. So, I just would like to hear more of this. The one thing watching that I liked is that, listen, Pierre is a politician, right? So he's out there doing this for exactly to have happen what's happening, right? It's going out on social media. We're talking about it. He gets some exposure. So it's pretty clever strategy to do this. Okay, so let's set that aside. Now, the next thing, though, is that he's actually meeting with people. And I think where things went off the rails back in 2020 is when we had this refusal to meet with people who were upset. And that's where we are now, is that people have felt ignored. People feel like their voice isn't heard. And you're never going to please everyone. I was watching some of the comments. I mean, we're never going to probably ever get anyone voted in that everybody is going to agree with. So the next thing is you sort of try to aim for, okay, who can we get that's the one that we can tolerate the most and is going to at least try to get things on track. That's what I look at, is who's going to help sort through problems, and also dial down some of the anger right now that people are feeling. It'd be interesting to see what's going to happen. Pierre talks about axing the tax. Well, let's see what happens when they get in, because we might find that, is that going to happen? It's very hard to go back from once a tax is in and money's coming in from that. So I agree. I mean, we might be having discussions, challenging whoever is going to be the next prime minister.
Okay. Can I give you my assessment?
I would love your assessment.
Oh boy. People gonna hate me. Not too much. This is either a takeover or it is a trap. Could end up being both.
A trap for who?
Pierre Poilievre.
Oh, that he stopped there? You think that's a trap?
It's more than just him stopping there. You go back about a month, one of his Axe the Tax rallies, he came out and encouraged people to protest. Within days, the people in the freedom movement mobilized and organized what you're seeing on the sides of the highways right now. And if you go and you watch what they were saying at the time and what they're saying even now is Pierre Poilievre told us to do this. That's what they were saying. So, pretty clear that we've always had some conservatives within the freedom movement. You also, I mean, it's a populist movement. So you're getting people from across the political spectrum. You're getting people from the extremes as well.
Right.
There are, honestly, some people on the edges who would like to overthrow the government. There's no question about it. They're out there. They've been, however, again, with this protest, kind of pushed off to the side in order to make room for what you just saw. Those guys, I've noticed they've been pushed aside again. There was a little bit of infighting, but there's more than just infighting. I think there's strategy here. They pushed them aside. They're not present at these, at least not visibly present at these different locations now. You can still find them talking and saying the things that they want to say. And I made reference to one of these people a couple of nights ago who honestly, even though they're being cast as being on the far right, well, you could portray them that way, but I would say that the problems are really coming from the left, even from within the fringe elements of the freedom movement. You could argue from the left and the right, but I don't really subscribe to that anyway. But anyway, the problems are that you've got some racist stuff going on, which is a problem everywhere right now, not just within the freedom movement. It's everywhere. You also have people like this guy who was calling for, I mean, he's sitting there praising Muammar Gaddafi and making reference to his economic policies and sort of promoting that as a solution to our problems. And like, this is the stuff that he's kind of been pushing just of late. So you've got this, third international theory from Muammar Gaddafi that this guy has subscribed to, but that's all crazy stuff, okay? That's sort of the extreme. But so what's going on here is a deal's been made. You've got Maxime Bernier with the PPC, who has really been the overarching political figure or party that has been attached to this movement, largely because it's the populist party. And the Diagolon guys are sort of affiliated or have been supportive of PPC, especially Jeremy McKenzie, who is directly involved with the party for sure. Okay, but Maxime Bernier, strangely silent of late on this particular series of protests. Not really present, not commenting on it much, not really in the picture. Some sort of a deal has been made with the conservatives to say, okay, we're gonna shift the focus of the freedom movement because they continually look for things to remain relevant. At first, it was before the pandemic. If you go back and look at the real roots of where the Freedom Convoy came from, it was from Western Canada, and it was about the oil industry, and it was about Western separatism, and you had a convoy that actually went to Ottawa prior to the pandemic. And that convoy, which was about the oil industry, was really the same core group of people. Fast forward to the convoy, that thing exploded, and they got a lot of just organic support from the public, which was fueled in part by social media, but it exploded because people were so upset about being locked down and the mask mandates, and the country was on fire because of the authoritarian measures of the government. So they really latched onto that, and that really gave that core little group of people fuel and credibility. So it's exploded. It's expanded since then. But within that movement, you've got some extremist elements, but then you've also got conservatives in there. And So what's happened now is, to remain relevant, they've tried different issues like the LGBTQ stuff, the drag queen story time, the Million March for Children, and the things that of late have been coming around. It's like the million charges thing. I don't know if you've seen that. That fizzled out. That went nowhere. A lot of the things they're trying just are not catching on with the public, and they've been overshadowed by all of these pro-Palestinian protests. A lot of these people, especially people like that guy who I was talking about, who wants to latch on to the Muammar Gaddafi economic philosophy, those guys want to align with the Muslims, right?
No.
And the Islamists. Hasn't really worked out because of all the prejudice and stuff. So to just kind of cut to the chase here, Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives, however they've done this, and I can't say exactly how, they've managed to take that slogan, that campaign plank, right, and insert it into the freedom movement. And that's just the current issue now that they're using to sort of continue the freedom movement, to latch on to something, to continue the relevance of their movement. So you've seen all these protests kind of evolve over the past 3 weeks or so, and they're using Pierre Poilievre's slogan. So he's like, he knows that this is going on. He told them to protest. That's a setup. So they go in and they use it. So they're either doing one of two things here. You've got the conservative element that I think you've seen a shift anyway of the freedom movement moving over to support Poilievre at the expense of the PPC. But you also have the PPC element within the freedom movement. They don't like him at all. They've said so. They really don't like him. And so some of these people, I'm just telling you, man, he's playing with fire here, because if anything goes wrong, and you're seeing it already, okay? Trudeau's latching onto it. Jagmeet Singh's latching onto it. They're trying to associate him now with Diagolon, and they're hoping that smears him. And if anything goes wrong at these protests, they're going to point the finger at him and say, well, he's the one who told us to come. And that could down the road be damaging.
I'm going to say this.
Sure.
Yeah. Yes, I hear what you're saying, but let's look at what everyday people, and I'm talking about everyday people that I'm talking with, and I've been listening to some podcasts about this, and I think, like you said, there are some extremes, but most sane people can see through this and see that, okay, he stopped to talk to people. There's extremists there. Does it mean that every time you talk to someone who...
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't. So I think, and I heard this today, and I think this is closer to reality. There is a lot more people that are quiet, that aren't speaking up, that are actually, they're not liking what they're seeing, but they're not necessarily in these extremes, and they don't like the extremes on either side. But I think they can see through some of this. So the more that, I was writing down some notes when I'm looking at what like Justin Trudeau is getting so fired up about it. He kind of looks a little like crazed right now, because he's getting all caught up in the Alex Jones and the Dagman. Most people are going, what are you talking about? Like, they're not most everyday people. Like, and I think you have some people here in the comments and when you're watching your show that are really, following what's happening in this world. But I think for most people that are out there working, getting their kids to sports events, trying to just survive, day to day and going about their business, I think most of them are now basically saying, we don't like what's happening. And the more that the Liberals and the NDP come out in this attack mode, I think actually that's the backfiring that's happening, because people
right now
have had they're like, enough already. It's like, you watch a little bit of House of Commons and Question Period and you're like, and I'm saying it on all sides. And then the other thing, and I reached out to someone I know, like, when I was watching Ontario here.
But Gail, here's the danger for Pierre Poilievre. Do you know what the real plan was for these protests on the side of the highways? Do you know what the real plan was originally?
No, I don't.
Because I follow this stuff very, very closely. Why do you think they chose the locations they chose?
I I don't know, but I will say this: it's much like what happened with the convoy in Ottawa. Yes, was there an underbelly, an underpinning of people that wanted to overthrow the government? But a lot of people, and I'm talking to a lot of people that I talked to that I know that went to Ottawa, were basically going up like they're regular everyday people. They don't have any thoughts about overthrowing the government. They're looking. They want to be heard.
Yes, that's true. And, the people that he spoke to there, those are the regular people. Those are not those are not the figureheads. They're not the ones who have been, with the coy with the language and saying, bring your hockey sticks and your golf clubs out, just in case you want to drive a few balls. Okay. Right. You know what those hockey sticks and golf clubs are for, really, right? Yes, you do. And you also know why they're heckling those cops who were standing in the ditch, right, at the side of the highway. The cops were just doing their jobs, protecting the protesters, making sure they didn't get run over by the damn traffic, honestly. But they're sitting there being very disrespectful and trying to provoke them.
Right.
That's the truth.
I will say yes, but the problem with the optics of it is that we see a very strong police presence and things
But
protests,
at first, yes. But did they shut the protests down? After the first day and a half or so, what happened to the cops? They left.
Yeah.
Did they come back? Nope.
So
no, they didn't. Because why? Because they never got the numbers that they wanted at those locations, so they were never actually able to execute the plan that they wanted to carry out. And so the cops just left them alone and let them do their petting zoo and all the silly things that they were doing, which is really, it's a facade for what they were really there for. And they never got the numbers. Now, they haven't left yet, and it's not everybody. It's not those people that Pierre Poilievre stopped to speak to.
Right.
Those are just regular, everyday people, and I applaud that. I'm absolutely on board with that, 100%. But it's these other elements in there that are very dangerous to Poilievre. And the thing is, if those people get what they want, which is, I'll tell you what the plan was, because they told us what the plan was. You can find them telling you what the plan is online. It's no secret. They've broadcast it.
Plans connect. Here's the thing. The same thing is happening in the protests with the Liberals and the NDP, the Palestinian protests. There's some people out there that are also protesting because, they're just out maybe protesting because they're strong beliefs. But then you have the people that have gotten the mob mentality approach that's happening. And that's where it's gotten out of control. But this happens on both sides. I guess what I'm saying, though, is that we have to be careful we don't get so caught up in these extremes that we miss the large middle ground, because most people aren't.
I think we need to be careful we don't get caught up in the extremes, so that the extremes become a problem.
Yes, it's.
And we're seeing the extreme. We're seeing the extremes right now on university campuses, on the streets, every single day with these pro-Palestinian protests. I see convergence happening between the left and the right. I see things coming together. Absolutely. I've spoken to some of the prominent people who have spoken about coming together with those pro-Palestinians. And so
there's a lot of it's interesting in a lot of the protests in the Palestinian protests. I mean, if you look at people with a background, if they are Muslim, and they would actually lean more towards sometimes supporting a conservative government than a liberal or NDP. So there's a lot of confusion right now. I think people are, people aren't sure where they stand. I'm one of those people. I mean, that's why I said I'm trying to get educated myself on some of these topics and really recognizing that Ricky told you this is common folks just trying to be heard. If Pierre dropped by to support them, we'll go to the truth.
I can play you the clips, man. I've got the video.
Oh,
I ain't gonna. What's that? You know her?
I know her, yeah. So
I mean, I totally get what you're saying, but and most people are going to take that point of view. But like I'm just telling you, man, I'm not making the stuff up.
No,
It's not like a theory. It's not a conspiracy theory. I'm just telling you what they've been saying.
I think
Again,
what
and I can prove it.
Rick, I'm not disagreeing with you on that, but we have to be careful. I do the same. You know, when we get caught up sometimes, if I spend a little time on Twitter sometimes, and you know, you think that it's all extremes, and I'm not disagreeing because I know you've done a lot of work on this and you have a lot of research, but we also have to work on trying to get back to that more middle ground. And I think Canadian girl here commented, who I know, but I mean, has some real insights here, because we've talked about this. What's missing is the voices of workers, the voices of truckers, the voices of farmers, and people who, you know, don't have all those degrees after their name. Because a lot of times I listen to people and I'm like, they have not had that real life experience of even maybe working in a factory or working in a job with their hands, or understanding, you know, I've said this, well, some of the smartest people I know are farmers. If you want to really learn about how our society functions, you talk to a farmer. They know about the economy, they know about the weather, they know about forecasting. And that's all because it isn't something they learned in a book or something they learned from some professor. They've learned it from, you know, handed down. Anyways, I just want to say we have to be very careful about not listening to the people that are more in the middle, because there's a lot more people that want to get good information as well. So we don't want to also scare some of those people off, because sometimes those extremes on each side, and you know, we have problems, but and this is my Loman, my Pollyanna coming out now, that I also believe we have to find hope, and we have to find where's the solutions to go forward. What do we need to do? Part of the reason I wanted to come on when you asked me on the show is that I want to encourage more people to ask more questions and to, you know, question your politicians. And I do agree with, I've seen this, like I have reached out now to my MP who has not responded after 3 emails, but that tells me something, right? I've sent letters, very nice letters. They weren't even offensive. Haven't heard a word back. It happens to be an NDP MP who I'm on their mailing list and I haven't even received anything back, right? So, so that.
But you do see that if they they wanted to shut the highways down. They wanted to shut down interprovincial trade. They wanted to shut it all down. That was if Trudeau didn't axe the tax within 72 hours, they were going to shut down all the highways and shut down interprovincial trade. That was the plan. But they never got the numbers. So they stayed and they kept trying to build the numbers. And it just hasn't come together. But that's because you do have also people within the movement who are just a little more level-headed. And you have some actual conservatives in there. Okay. And so they kind of pushed these people over to the side again for now. But here's the danger. If things go off the rails at any point now, he's associated with it. His name is associated with it. These people have said, Pierre told us to come and protest here. You've got him in the protest and in the speech saying, go out and protest. So he actually did tell them to do it. And so this is this is ammunition for Trudeau and Jagmeet Singh, and down the road, yes, it is. And so if anything goes wrong, they're going to point at him and say, "See, man, you see what you're responsible. Look who you're hanging out with." That's what it is. We also
have our current government that has not come out and spoke out. You know, when there have been people. Only just recently have come out when they actually have, you know, some footage, although that footage has been around for a while, calling for the killing of Jews. I mean,
oh yeah.
So
that's the irony here.
That's appreciate someone who steps up and, you know, is going to speak up on some of these things. We may not always like it. I think anybody that does that, but does it from a principled place. Now, I will say this. What I didn't like this week, and I already did reach out to someone, was when Doug Ford came out and wanted the cafes, like he went against the speakers who wanted the cafes to be worn. And I'm like, that is not, to me, you know, where is your principled position? Because listen, these are rules in the legislature for no symbols, no political symbols to be worn, right? And so that's a
Ontario
case
legislature, yeah.
and I made it known because I said that doesn't sit well when you're looking at, principal positions. And the same thing, that's what happened with Aaron O'Toole. Aaron O'Toole tried to play every which way, and it doesn't work out. So to me, the hardest thing in politics, but what I respect about anybody is when they do take a position. And I think what we've seen with our other leaders is that they're kind of wavering. Like, I kind of support the Jews, I kind of support Muslims, well, Christians, no, we'll just forget about them, right? So I prefer to see someone that takes a stand on things. So if he's stopping and there's a diagonal, which, okay, we need to have more stories on. Some of that is a bit outlandish, right? If you really look at like some of the coverage of some of these topics, I think they're not always done with the lens of objectivity and looking at doing analysis. I would like to see more analysis on a lot of these different topics, because what we tend to have now is we have mainstream, and then we have some other, people like yourself or people on different shows, but we don't have that kind of objective perspective being used to study a lot of these topics. So I'm reading. I was trying to read some of the content comments too, because this is an interesting. We're kind of having this little discussion tonight, Rick.
See, and I mean, I'm not being critical of Pierre here at all. In fact, I think he probably is the guy for Canada right now. He's probably the guy we need, because he's able to reach across to people on different sides. He's able to bring people together. He's not afraid to stop and talk to the regular people at these protests. So he's able to extend olive branches, and I think he's a guy who can maybe help heal people. The Conservatives have a progressive wing to it, but they are also conservative. They have the conservative side of things. So by inserting this axe the tax plank into the freedom movement and really kind of expropriating the movement for the purposes of the CPC, I think it could actually be a very good thing, because it's sort of like a roundabout way of uniting the right. And we've seen that happen in the past, where the Conservatives have become fractured. You had, the Canadian Alliance or the Reform Party, and then over time they unite the right and they come back together and they reformed and they became the CPC, the Conservative Party of Canada. But then it fractured again, and Maxime Bernier went off and created the PPC, which is a populist party, but he was supposed to be a conservative, but it's evolved into this weird thing. But this is kind of bringing a lot of these conservatives back into the fold. So now you have a more united front to go up against Trudeau in the next election. So I think that can be a very positive thing. I'm just telling you that there is an element within that freedom movement that really doesn't like him. They're associated with the PPC. They're on the left and the right, and they have their sights set on him. And this is a very dangerous place for him. He's gambling here, is what I'm saying. Because if anything goes wrong, he's now associated with it.
What's the alternative? That's what I don't.
Oh, I don't know.
Extreme, those extremes.
Yep.
The problem with what's happening right now is the extremes have been allowed to take over on some of the, like, what we're hearing. We tend to hear the extremes. That's what I'm saying. There's a lot of people we're missing out that are in the middle, that are quiet, that aren't speaking out as much. And I know these people because I've spoke to them, and they felt comfortable talking to me about some of these things because they're afraid to speak up, but they are not happy with the extremes. But they also don't like, the current agenda that's happening. And that I do know that, people that historically would have supported more on the left are starting to move over to the conservative. They may not like that move, but they know that they almost feel like they can't trust what's happening to the left, even though many of those people have historically probably would have supported the left. But the extremes, I don't think you're going to get rid of the extremes. It's just they have a loud voice now. I mean, social media has given them a loud voice. And then you also have media that are constantly saying far right activists. Like some of the people I know that support some of these things, they're not extreme right wing people. I mean, I've spoken about some of these things, and if you know me, I don't think I'm considered as far right activist, but by asking questions or even saying, okay, let's go talk to people that are at a protest, does that make you then a far right supporter?
I would argue that the majority of all the anti-Semitic, anti-Jew, anti-Zionist, anti-Israel, and even the majority of the racism is actually coming from the left, from people who deceive us, who are communists, far left socialists, who are actually maybe even fascistic in their actual views. Most of it's coming from the left, and I think if it hadn't been for the rise of the left, the far right element would have remained pretty obscure in Canada. But it's like for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction, so you're getting more of this ginned up on the other side, because the far left, if you want to call it that, has become so powerful.
Well, I did see something. This was interesting. I saw this on Twitter. It was on MSNBC, and they were interviewing a professor who was Jewish, I believe, but talking about the double standard and saying if he had gone out and said fill in the blanks against whatever group, he would be shut down, he'd be canceled, he'd probably lose his job, there'd be so many things happen. But yet there are protests out right now that are calling for the destruction and killing of Jews, and that was on MSNBC. So that to me was like, oh, that's interesting, that at least it's, there's starting to be some questioning about double standards. And I've said this for a long time. I said, you have to be careful whenever you're especially talking about free speech or censorship. You can't say, I don't shut me down with my views because I'm right, but I want to shut you down because I don't like your views, because the tables always get turned. And that's where we're at right now. People really feel, a lot of people I spoke to are upset because they saw what happened in Ottawa. They saw the Emergency Measures Act, and now they see protests where there's complete chaos, and people are, pushing at the police on a regular basis, and there isn't the same, police presence or police arrests that are happening.
See, I've talked a lot about communofascism because I've seen this convergence happening over time, where it's just a steady march toward authoritarianism. And so today, when I'm looking at online influencers, as an example, to sort of illustrate the point, I hear this exact same stuff coming from people who are supposed to be communists or socialists, as I hear from people who are coming from what's supposed to be the far white nationalistic hate groups, right? I hear exactly the same stuff. Exactly.
Well, we have to be careful. I would agree with that. You can't say shut down these protests either. Protests. You can't say, oh, we can have protests for, when there was a convoy in Ottawa, that's okay, but we can't have protests from Palestinian groups. But when we have to make sure when we're talking about things like free speech and setting those boundaries, and I've said this for a long time, I support free speech, but there are boundaries. If people are calling for the killing or destruction of any group, that needs to be dealt with. The problem is some of those boundaries, like people think they can go in and, well, you said something I don't like. No, that's different than, we have to be very specific about what we are maybe going to tackle when it comes to enforcing any free speech laws.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it's a very difficult thing to navigate.
Well, we see it in Australia. I think it was the Australian Prime Minister now they've gone in and ordered some social media to take down memes that were like, I guess, not nice about him or that were ridiculing him. Like, that.
So when you're seeing people march through the streets of Toronto shouting things like "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free," or they're outright calling for, war or violence, or use, how far do you think it should go, or do you have concerns at all about what we've been seeing in the streets there, or even on these campuses in the U.S.?
Well, I think what's happened is it's now escalated to the point that, when you allow things to happen for so long, the crowds become emboldened. So now there is a big problem because the police have great difficulty in going in to enforce because it's gone on for so long now. And we haven't had leadership that have come out very clearly and said, no, this is not acceptable. What's interesting, we saw that during the Ottawa convoy, though, right? We saw this is not acceptable, so this is where the double standards come in, and what people are most upset about is that, when rules aren't applied equitably, and that's
well, not equitably, equally.
Equally, yes, sorry. Equally.
Yeah. It's, everybody should be treated the same under the law. Like justice should be blind.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we are now in the mess we're in because to me, there has been a lack of leadership, and there's also been a lack of analysis, right? But we saw the same thing during the Ottawa convoy. There was not a lot of media coverage asking why. Why were people traveling across Canada to come to Ottawa? What was it about? And there was at times there's this disdain and dismissiveness, and we have some, voices, especially media columnists. I just saw something by Dave Moskrop that, it just adds fuel. It sort of creates this, I would say, encourages hatred towards people who have different views. To me, that's what's causing a lot of the problem too. When you have voices in media leadership and in political leadership, you have a duty to, I believe anyways, you should have a duty to try to, how can we, make things better and improve on our country and improve on our economy, and not just come out attacking people. Instead, we have attacks happening from our leaders, and as a leader, that doesn't show good leadership.
Yeah, I remember when James Topp walked across the country, marched across the country. Maxime Bernier did go out and walked a distance with James Topp and met with people, and at one point, so too did Pierre Poilievre. Mm-hmm. So here he is again, reaching out to the people. And when I saw him marching with James Topp, I said, that's a significant moment. What happened here overnight with him stopping at that protest, to me, that's a very significant moment, because it's a pivotal point where people can have the opportunity to come together here in opposition to Justin Trudeau in a constructive, productive, and democratic way. The alternative, not so good. This is the positive aspect of this. If without someone like Pierre Poilievre doing what he did last night, these folks at the sides of the highways, many locations, they're not left with an alternative in their view, right? Mm-hmm. So he's giving them what I've been calling for here all along, which is a way to vote your way out of this, as long as he's sincere and real about what he's offering the people. And when he says he's going to axe the tax, it's about more than just the tax. It's about reforming our approach to government. It's getting back to something that resembles a government that we had prior to, I think, the pandemic, the before times, if you will. I think that's what people have in their minds. It's about more than just that tax.
Oh, yeah. No, the tax is, the axe the tax is a good slogan, but I agree. It's more than right now. People, I just was talking to someone, was at a sports tournament. I'll be generic sports tournament with some young people, children, and I guess the announcer was announcing the different teams and was saying, so initially it was boys and girls, then they had to change it to all gender, all gender this, and there was confusion because the kids didn't even know what does that mean. They don't even know all gender. What does that mean, right? So that's the level though that I'm hearing in that it's in the day-to-day stuff that's happening. It's what's happening with people when they're, when things get out of balance and out of proportion, when you can't say boys and girls anymore and you say all genders to younger children. So I think that's what most people are now thinking about and concerned about, rather than Diagolon or all these other. Most everyday people, they're more concerned about the day-to-day stuff. What's happening with their kids? What's happening with when they go to put gas in their vehicles to get to work, to do trips, when they're going out to eat, when they are buying groceries. That's what I'm hearing when people are saying, oh my God.
The kitchen table issues.
Yes, right. And someone I know went out, got blinds for something, household blinds, and they were $111 last year. That's $142 this year.
Yep.
It's exactly the same. So that's, I think, what people are concerned about. And I think
Inflation.
that what Pierre Poilievre is doing versus what Justin Trudeau or Jagmeet is doing is that, they're looking at these issues that are way, way out of touch with what real people are talking about. So, and it's interesting even that now they're addressing housing, but that was originally Pierre Poilievre brought up about housing, and now they're addressing housing, but it's addressing housing in a very strange way, like saying, they're going to extend mortgages for 30 years instead of 25 years. I mean, that makes no sense. You're just like going to be paying more interest. So again, most people listen to that. Anybody that's had a mortgage, I mean, most times what gives you the most grief when you look at your statements coming in is, oh my God, look how much money I'm paying on. I mean, that's real life for people. When you get your mortgage statement and say, this tiny pittance on the principal and most of what I'm paying is interest. That's what gets people riled up. And then you're going to...
And what also gets people riled up is the emergence and adoption of halal mortgages,
now,
which some people are upset about. And Johnny, who is in the chat saying that tonight's show is boring.
Who said that?
Johnny. He says tonight's show is boring. But, he was upset about that. He says, it's a double standard. And I've tried to say, well, they're just baking the interest into, a different financial product. But that's another thing.
I did a little research on this because I was curious. I said, what the heck's halal mortgages, right? Because I know about halal food and, I live in a very diverse neighborhood and my son has had friends. And so I've often had halal food in my freezer, right? So that's just when he was younger. Having said that, their halal mortgages aren't new. The problem is they've come up now in the budget. To me, so now it's become political and it's almost created this reactionary approach. So again, what they're maybe trying to do is something what they may think is positive, but it's not new. There's been halal mortgages, right? And it's the same thing what I disagreed with about Doug Ford with the scarves. Like, you're doing something political, you're looking at the polls and you're making a decision based on pollings, as opposed to saying, listen, here's our position, here's what we're doing, and I'm going to stick with it, right? I'm going to go out and talk to people, even though, there may be some blowback, but I would rather someone that I know where they stand. That to me is important on whether it's politician, and that could be in any political party. I look at, or any friendship, it's like, I have friends that I don't agree with, but at least I know where they stand and they're not wavering on everything, because that's very hard to deal with. So yeah, I think if sorry, I'm dog sitting, so I think she's gonna come here and say hi. Okay, let's have a little dog. I'm going to show. This is Quinley. There she is. Hello. Quinley, look at, you're famous. Yes, that's she's
awesome.
saying, hey, I need some attention. She's
yeah.
So dogs are real good. They provide hope in the world when you can have a dog around.
Yeah, they do.
They
Yes,
they
do.
help keep your granny. Go for a walk with them, and
We need that now more than ever. But you know, the halal mortgages, it is a step toward Sharia law in the view of some people.
Yep.
Right.
But it's not new. Here, I guess that's the thing. It's political that they're being brought up now, and it causes this backlash when they're. To me, it'd be different because at first I thought, what the heck is this new? Well, and when it was explained to me, it was like, okay, because it's a little confusing, but I get it. But I think that it's brought up now is a problem. See, to me, that's what it's that. You didn't need to do that right now. They didn't need to bring this up because what's happened is it's probably had a negative impact on the Muslim population who may have been going with their business and they may have had access to this. And sometimes and I also see this with the heavy push on a lot of the trans issues, it's actually hurt a lot of people in the trans community, in the gay and lesbian community, because it's this kind of forced approach as opposed to letting people, go about their business. And when you have like the Riley Gaines story, what is so troubling about that is that, and I've listened to an in-depth interview with her, and I encourage anyone to, when they get a chance, it was a Joe Rogan interview with Riley Gaines, really worth listening to and hearing the whole story, not the snippets, not the cherry bites. Hold on, I just got to plug my computer in. Hold on.
Uh-oh.
No, it's okay.
Running out of juice.
Well, I don't like to always keep my laptop plugged in all the time. So, and if you get a chance, go listen to the whole story because she explained the step-by-step. It wasn't that she's just anti-trans. She's not transphobic. She has no hate towards this other person. But when she's worked from her childhood, right, to compete. And then when it came down to handing out the trophy, they said, because she tied, which is phenomenal in itself. She tied against someone who had been a swimmer in the male category, hadn't done very well, came into the female category, and then, but was still like, had a foot on her in terms of height and like just a stronger swimmer. So she tied, which that in itself is quite something. But when it came time to hand out the trophy, they said, okay, the other person had to go to get the trophy. And she asked, she goes, well, why? And they said, well, basically they said it was for the photo moment. And, that to me is what is the problem here, because it causes a lot of anger when it doesn't need to be like that.
Yeah, speaking of anger, Justin Trudeau's pretty angry.
Oh my God!
Here he is. This is him responding to Pierre Poilievre's visit to the Axe the Tax convoy.
Hi, Michelle Song with CBC News. Your opponent was photographed posing with anti-carbon tax protesters flying F Trudeau flags. In the video, Pierre Poilievre is heard saying that you are a liar and everything you say is, quote, bullshit. Can we get your response, please?
Oh boy, buckle up.
A politician has to make choices about what kind of leader they want to be. Are they a kind of leader that is going to exacerbate divisions, fears, and polarization in our country?
There you have it.
Get
at it.
And welcome the support of conspiracy theorists and extremists, because that's exactly what Pierre Poilievre continues to do, not just when you see him engaging with members of Diagolon, but also when he refuses to condemn and reject the endorsement of Alex Jones. Alex Jones is a proven liar and conspiracy theorist who has to pay hundreds of millions of dollars because he lied about the Sandy Hook killing that killed 20 little kids. This is the kind of man who's saying Pierre Poilievre has the right ideas to bring the country towards the right, towards conspiracy theories, towards extremism, towards polarization, towards the kind of lies that Alex Jones is peddling still. So the fact that Pierre Poilievre hasn't stood up to condemn that endorsement, the fact that he continues to encourage the kind of divisive approaches to Canada that I don't think Canadians want to see, really shows that he will do anything to win, anything to torque up negativity and fear. And it only emphasizes that he has nothing to say to actually solve the problems that he's busy amplifying.
En français?
You know,
French is, we don't need it in French.
You know, two things here. One was the loaded question. I mean, what, you know, as a journalist, I don't know. I'm at a loss almost for words, and I'm seldom at a loss for words, but I just think that's the first thing, is the loaded question, because that, and like, for what good other than to stir the pot and create, like, and then he just has this whole opening. Like, why is that question, of all the questions you could ask about society, what's happening right now, that's the question you're going to ask about, you know, and these digs again about, you know, and then Trudeau comes out with these digs about Diagolon and Alex Jones and goes off on a tangent about that has nothing to do with what Pierre Poilievre has not supported him. Someone on Twitter, Alex Jones came out on Twitter and, you know, supported him, and all of a sudden it becomes like as if, and I do believe that they've Pierre Poilievre, they've come out and said we're not, like they've already said they're not supporting him or whatever. They've come out with a statement. But I think they're just, and then you move on. To me, it's like, why keep on with that? But that video, that interview clip right there says it all about why we have the problems we have right now. It's angry. The question that's come out is a loaded question, and it doesn't help move us forward. And to me, media should be asking questions that are about moving our country forward, and, you know, asking questions that that people will care about, other than saying, guess what, you know, it's so high schoolish. Oh, he said, you know, you're a jerk and you're full of shit or whatever, right? I mean, it's just this petty commentary, and it does nothing to help bring forward new information that people need to know about.
He doesn't understand what is really going on. This blindsided him, even though it's been evolving over the past month. He doesn't understand it. That's why you got the answer that you got. That's why he's like, Alex Jones and conspiracy theories and Diagolon. And that's why he can't figure it out.
And he said he's not getting to what you talked about, those kitchen table topics. That's what people, and people are tired of this. People are so tired of him, and he looks angry. To me, that's not, you know, prime ministerial. Like, you should be, and it's hard being in a leadership role when people are coming at you. It's not easy. I have been in a role one time in my past, in a leadership role, and it's not nice when people aren't nice to you, like, or they attack you. It's not nice. But you know, if you're in that role, you have to step up, and I always say you have to be the bigger person in these roles. And right now we see a lot of our leaders not being the bigger person, and it's like, you know, taunting at the schoolyard. And then we wonder why we have children that are not showing respect to teachers or parents. We don't have leaders in our society right now that are showing any type of leadership. And it's just attack, and that gets me. That gets me going.
Attack, and tell me what you make of this after you watch this.
I do want to say someone just wrote that I don't think kids are acting the way they are because of politicians. No, it's one piece of the puzzle though. When you are exhibiting disrespect to anyone, so that's politicians, it's people in positions in leadership roles, and it's also, there's a whole other thing which I won't get into in terms of, we have got into this, oh, everyone's a winner. I was just at the gym. I'm in a small group training, and we have to pass this weight around. And so if you get caught with it, you're the loser. But even among the young group, they're like, oh no, everyone's a winner. And I was like, no, whoever can, like, someone has to lose. Someone has to be at the bottom. That's life, and we have got away from that, where it's like this. I do think it's way too much coddling of children, and we need to, again, we need a balance, and we've got.
But what do you make of these protests on college campuses and Columbia now being basically shut down? So it's all online learning because they can't control what's going on campus.
Well, this has been building. This is the same thing. This has been building. This is where we're at now, but only because they haven't dealt with it for weeks and months since October. Is anyone surprised that it's escalated to this? Because they've allowed it, and now it's gotten out of control. And they're like, oh, wait a minute, now we got to do something. And police are coming in riot gear. And I don't know the whole scenario, what led up to this, but this is what happens, if you let things go on too long without, I often say this, even in workplaces, take a long time to hire and a short time to fire. And these protests, they didn't just come up out of nowhere. Where's all the media study and who's funding all of this? Where is this coming from? This didn't just this is not an organic approach to protest. This is
color revolution.
But this is where we need some analysis and people talking about it in the mainstream as well. But we don't have that. We don't have any discussion. No one wants to ask those questions. No one else. But again, here's what happened. When we had the convoy in Ottawa, there was all sorts of discussions about the money supposedly coming from Russia and the US. And a lot of that was wrong information. And it was, for some media organization, I don't think they ever corrected it. Now, I'm sure there was money coming from places that weren't all on the up and up. But a lot of people, because I know people that were sending money and were just, again, the people sitting around their kitchen table, upset and were sending money. So these protests right now, what's happened, the police coming in, yes, very dangerous, very disturbing. But I guess I say, are we surprised? And it's coming to Canada. We're going to see it's happening.
Well, it's already here.
It's already happening, but probably not to that where we haven't seen yet the police come in to that extent. But yeah, I don't know. It is, but it's symbolic of, just like I said when I was watching Blue Bloods from how many years ago. This didn't just pop up since October either.
Nope.
This has been building and building, and I almost think it's happening at a pace that people are now getting used to it. It's just, it's a slow burn where you don't really, nothing's sudden. They think, for some people they're waking up to it. But, and I would be probably someone that's more recent coming up to it. I didn't think about it back years ago when some of these protests were happening.
So where do you think all of this is coming from, if it isn't just organic, if you think it's being funded and choreographed in some way?
I used to roll my eyes about what I thought was people that seen conspiracy theories. And now, Rick, I don't know. I'm really, because I'm not someone that ever would have thought I would be questioning some of these
You don't have to guess. The information's out there.
Yeah.
You can read the reports from consulting firms that work for the intelligence services. There's open source information from them.
Yeah.
You can find it in the foreign interference inquiry and the testimony and the evidence presented there. You can start to connect dots just from that. You can find it sometimes in what happens in Parliament and what information is revealed there. You can find it through the social media influencers that are really carrying water for foreign governments in many cases. You can find it there. You don't have, it doesn't take much to connect the dots.
And it's only now through shows like this, and that's why I said again why I spend time on Twitter, and I've been following a lot of what Holly Doan, more Canadian politics, but Holly Doan and Blacklocks, like I've been really appreciating the work she's done. Holly Doan in particular has, and people like Peter Menzies, Melissa Mabarky, these are people that are very rational people that are talking about, like, saying, hey, we have a problem. Now the next thing is, and I don't know what the answer is, but the next thing is, what's the solution? Where do we go from here?
It's a very difficult thing, because if we have a free society, as I've always said, the strength of a free society is freedom. The weakness of a free society is freedom.
Yeah.
So if you believe in free speech, then you're wide open to attacks from people who don't just engage in free speech, but engage in malicious speech. And they use that freedom to attack your free society.
Mm-hmm.
That's a danger. But if you're in an authoritarian governmental system, they'll shut that stuff down so fast. And then if you in the free society try to shut down any kind of dissent like that, then they point at you and say, no, see, you're the authoritarian. And then they just turn that around on you and smash you in the face. I've had that happen right here, where we've tried to have a completely free and open chat and call-in sessions, but what ended up happening is, without some sort of moderation, you get people who come in and start to act maliciously.
Yeah.
And they're here all the time trying to recruit people for their extremist political agendas. Okay, I have people dipping in and out all the time. They do it on other programs as well. They're all out there, but they use that free speech, and they abuse it. So,
Rick, you and I have talked about this, and I agree. I mean, this is also your show, and you like.
But I don't mean to make it about this show, but I'm talking about the macro here, our country, right?
But people also have a right to have those boundaries on their shows, in their home. I mean, we had that. There was the professor in the States that had people over to his home. I believe he was a Jewish professor, but there were some of the, and I think not only pro-Palestine, but pro-Hamas protesters that stood up and like took a microphone in his backyard. He was having like a barbecue, and
we ran the clip here yesterday.
They asked them to leave. Like, to me, that's horrible that people, because yes, you have a right to free speech, but not if you're in someone's home and they say, hey, you know what, next topic, you respect, I think, that request, and then you can find your other venue to speak out and make your views known.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all about free speech. That's what we're about here. But I also see how it is used to undermine freedom.
Yeah, well, it's a double-edged sword, right? I agree, because when you have that, as we talked about free speech, not everybody's going to like it, and yeah, that may be a topic for another show to talk about solutions, because I think that's what we're going to have to start looking at, is that where do we go next? What is the path forward? And I think that's why, in terms of overthrowing the government, I don't see that happening. And instead, we have three main parties for now. Three main parties, right? Who do we think will be able to help get things back on track again? That's what I think we need to look at. But until we can start doing more analysis, asking why is it that people are upset? If people don't like being ignored, people don't like when they feel they're not being, lack of appreciation is also one of the biggest problems in our world too. And in any relationship, any political party, if you feel you're being swatted away, it's going to cause problems. And that's what's that's what came to light back in 2020, right?
And look, I mean, we have to acknowledge that at the root of all of this, the main thing right now, it's all about Palestine, Gaza. Gaza was the main issue in this by-election coming up in, I think, May 2nd in Milton, and this Liberal candidate Bonnie Crombie speaks about it here. So I mean, this is, let me just run this short clip of him. I mean, this is provincial politics in Ontario, and the issue is Gaza, but here it is. Yeah. And he's wearing his kifa. And of course, he's a liberal, right? So I mean, it's like,
yeah, that, you know, we see this though at school board meetings, we see it at municipal councils, we see it provincially and federally, where the topics being addressed have like, and people want to go back to dealing with the issues that we elected people to look after municipally, like school boards deal with making sure our kids can read and write and have critical thinking skills and all those basics. That's what people want from their elected trustees. They want their municipal councilors to focus on what's happening in our day-to-day lives here in our own communities. And then provincially, what are the provincial topics that need to be addressed? And you're right, when we have this by-election that has gotten completely, I mean, it's very symbolic of some problems we have right now when we have a whole by-election focused on a topic of an international aspect. It just boggles the mind.
It's all about Gaza. It's all about Israel. It's all, I mean, and that's what's going on in the States. It's going on here. It's I don't know. I think we're in more trouble than we realize.
You know, when I see, I'm of two minds of this, because I think some days I think it's worse than others, and then other days I don't know. When I see those protests and I see though the riot police starting to come in, that's a concern. And I've been watching, you know, even that now I'm planning a trip to Toronto, and I'm concerned about being downtown right now. So I'll be able to report back of my trip to downtown and see if there's going to be anything happening while I'm there.
Well, the Diagolon guys, they're taking note of all of this, and they created this little video.
Wait a minute, come here. What did you call it? Say it loud enough so everyone can hear. Come on, say it.
Diagolon.
Wait a minute, come here. What did you call it? Say it loud enough so everyone can hear. Come on, say it.
Diagolon.
Sometimes we need more humor too, you know, we need a little bit of humor. And I am going to have to probably soon start to wrap up, Rick, but let's see, is there any other comments here that... Yeah, so I don't think it will ever be normal again. Well, I know over the years, you know, whenever I used to travel, I used to always wear my Canadian flag with, you know, that was sort of a badge of honor. And then in recent times, not so much.
Well, you know, you made reference to this whole thing building over time. And there are so many layers to this. A lot of it goes back many years to capture of our institutions and efforts to rewrite or even just erase our history. And I think we're maybe seeing even that just over the last 24 hours in Edmonton, where a fire destroyed a historic aircraft hangar. It's suspicious in nature. It appears that it may be of arson. A lot of history here, World War II history, went up in flames. We're seeing a lot of kind of strange things like this just in the last day a number of fires. And the Alberta government coming out today saying that all the wildfires that have started so far in the province to kick off sort of the fire season, every single one of them, they believe, is man-made in origin. Some of them accidental, some of them arson. And now, that's not to say that it's the government starting those fires, but arson nonetheless. And now here, we've seen statues torn down, and now a fire destroying Edmonton's historic Hangar 11, as you can see. This was a building that was about to undergo kind of a restoration and be turned into sort of a restaurant/museum of some kind, and it went up in flames. Can't say for sure exactly what happened there, but when I see history like that being destroyed, it gives rise to concern for me.
Yes. Yep.
Churches. How many churches Christian churches have we seen burned?
But we don't hear about those, right?
No, we don't.
That's part of the problem as well.
Yep.
And we both come out of working in mainstream media, and we have a lot to ask questions about why are certain topics get more attention than others, and there was comments I saw earlier too. I've watched it like compared. If you even look at, what's happening through the justice system, if you look at, Tamara Litch, Chris Barber versus other people. I mean, we had all those people in that big gold heist that got out bail. Mm-hmm. Tamara Litch has spent more time in, and I know people will then say, well, she didn't agree to certain things. She could have got out sooner. But I mean, who else has had you can't post on social media? I mean, I don't know. And I know there's a lot more we may not know, but I don't know. Mischief charges. Something's not adding up.
Indeed. Well, final thoughts on where Pierre Poilievre stands right now and Trudeau, this whole situation?
I would say that, he has taken a stand. Like you said, there could be this could come back to Biden, but the same thing, he gets attacked for, talking to people at the convoy or, with Top. What's his first name?
James Top.
James. Okay, I want to say Justin, but James Top. Mm-hmm. But, there's a consistency, and I would say consistency to me has, I have more respect for someone, whether I agree or disagree with them, at least I know where they stand. Whereas when you don't know, it's more concerning. So, and I'm not, when I think, all of the politicians too, I think have, everybody has a history, but people evolve and people can change. And, and I say that about all of the leaders, so I don't want to cherry pick here, but it's, what have you done for me lately, I guess, is the question we need to ask about all of the politicians. So I don't think this will hurt him. I think it will be part of his, his brand identity. And the other thing is, I don't think he cares so much about what mainstream media, because they're working on, this is the other thing I've seen on social. There's been a lot of positive too. So I think he's going to just stay true to his messaging around listening to people. He's consistent with his messages. And who's this now?
So that's, do you know who the Ferryman's Toll is?
No, don't think I know what that is.
Yeah, he's part of the Diagolon group.
Okay.
You haven't looked at any of his stuff?
I don't think so. What is the name?
Ferryman's Toll.
Okay, I don't think so. Yeah.
The Ferryman's Toll.
Oh, okay.
He says here, Diagolon is everywhere, and he says, "Hi, Pierre," and there's that picture.
Yep.
With the Diagolon flag.
They're gonna use it. Listen, it's it's just like the same thing with Justin Trudeau and the blackface, right? It's gonna come up and rear its head, but at a certain point, people go, "Okay, I get it," but. Again, I think it's going to be, we need more talk about what people are talking about around the kitchen table.
And yes, I agree with that.
I think that is, I don't think people, when they see this photo, they'll even know and care the Aglang flag. They'll go Google it and look up and go, what?
Yeah, the average person is not going to.
The average person does not
even.
see. I don't think they
even know what it is.
I think you do, because I don't disagree that it's not a threat, but I also think if you look at even the PPC, they haven't been able to get much traction, but they also probably, it encouraged a change in the leadership, because Aaron O'Toole was trying to play
Did you see the picture of Jeremy Mackenzie shaking Pierre Poilievre's hand?
I think at one point I did see that, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What did you make of that?
I don't know. I don't, when you're at these events and you're shaking hands with people, I don't know if you do a test of them. Do you figure out who's who? Maybe he knew he was, but I mean, what are you going to do? Say, I'm not going to shake.
Why did Jeremy Mackenzie go and shake his hand?
Well, I'm sure he's going to use it for his.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
of course.
Exactly right. That's why.
Now, here's what's interesting, because I do work, with organizations, with events and things, and when Pierre Poilievre has been in some, even some workplaces, I can tell you, people line up to shake his hand, to meet him.
Yeah.
There's definitely, again, and I'm talking about regular people that they don't know who Jeremy Mackenzie is. They're just regular folk, as I'd say. What is it Justin Trudeau called them? What was the term he used? The people that worked in the steel plant. He said
anyways,
we'll think of it when we're not thinking of it. But so
they made reference to the overalls.
Yeah, the overalls.
The overalled ones.
I tell you, the overalled ones. The overalled ones. And I've even asked, I said, what's the reaction? And I've been told, normally some of the people that would, roll their eyes, they were in there wanting to, meet him. And I know at one event, he had said to the company, he says he wasn't going to leave until everyone got to shake hands, take a photo, and people were lining up to do it. So it's not this like forced, okay, we've got someone here, and I know he's the leader of the opposition, but what's interesting is that used to be Justin Trudeau. When he came into a community, people would have clamored, and it's been going, like, now that wouldn't happen right now.
Halo says, I have a hate on for most. It says, Rick has a hate on for most of us. No, I don't. Quite the opposite. I'm trying to protect you.
Yes, I think, Rick, you have.
I'm so misunderstood.
You have done a lot of research in this area, and I don't. And I have not had that same depth that you do of knowledge, and you've been doing this for a while. But where my knowledge, I think, is that I'm at a lot of events. I talk to a lot of people, and I'm talking to people who aren't political necessarily, who aren't on Twitter, and one of the things that always comes up is that people are just tired of all of this, like everything. They're tired, and they're also, though, afraid. They're afraid if they speak up. Like we have the benefit of, okay, well, here's our Jerry tried taking it down a few notches, making more of the photo that we did. No, that would surprise me, but I don't think it's going to take him to, because most people don't know who Jeremy or the Diaglo is. Most people are now what has gone became very popular for Pierre was the whole the Apple photos, right? And people love that, right? People love that.
You do bring a sort of just a perspective that I think represents the average person here. You absolutely do.
And I think that's because I'm at a lot of events. I do a lot of networking. That's why I said I'm more with kind of a lot of, and I'm in manufacturing. I'm talking to people that are, workers that are just get up each day. They go, they're not on Twitter. They're not on social media. And they're not, like, we get caught. I find myself doing this too. Sometimes I have to be careful because I get, on Twitter, and I follow, listening to podcasts and that. And then I then I get out and I call it the real world, and people are like just, they're not there. So.
Yeah. Like I go to the store, I go out in the community, the people are not like into this.
Did you hear about Pierre Poilievre with the dialogue, whatever, right?
Like, no, I have to say, when I was at the hospital yesterday, day before yesterday, for tests and stuff. Anyway, I was listening to the two nurses talking, and they started talking about shrinkflation. And I'm just listening, right? And they were talking about the package of a chip, the bag of, it was actually frozen fruit. Yeah. And she said, it was 650 grams. Now it's 300, but the bag is the same size, right? And they were talking about, like, they do talk about that, but that's a kitchen table issue.
Yes. No, and that's what people are more upset with. Like I said, the blinds that were 111, now they're 140, right?
Yeah.
And I think, someone wrote too that, okay, Twitter is worse than Facebook. Sandy, I'm going to say I disagree. But you know what? Every platform, it's like the freedom thing. Every platform can be good. Every platform can be bad. You really need to curate. You need to find people that you can surround yourself, as in life. You need to find people that you can surround yourself with, that will provide you with great information. And on Twitter, there are people like, I follow Norm Spector and Peter Menzies and Melissa Mabarki. There's people that I follow in my bubble. And then there's some crazies that I watch once in a while, but
like me.
But I also listen. I try to listen to different podcasts. I skip over some, but I do try to catch some Joe Rogan podcasts. Like I said, the one with Riley Gaines. I like where, he does these in-depth interviews with people that are really fascinating. I've learned a lot. And I have people that would look at me and go, "Are you nuts? How can you listen to Joe Rogan?" And then I say, go listen to some of them, and then we'll have a discussion. So.
You know what I say Twitter has become? A cesspool of truth.
Yeah, I gotta say,
yeah.
There is a cesspoolishness about it.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you really have to, though, make sure you surround yourself with people who are providing information in a respectful way. And as I said, I'm a fan of a few people there that I don't always like following because it's disturbing, but Karima she does a lot of videos, and she gets attacked from all sides. So that's the people I like to follow, because people on the right and the left hate her. I mean, but her and her videographer are just documenting what's happening. And yeah, she gets a lot of grief for that, which is why I try to support her, because as a former journalist, even myself now, I've got called because I asked questions. I said, like, hey, we need to ask why Trump is so popular. Oh, are you a Trump supporter? That's what people say. Just because I say, I want to know why. And, you get labeled as soon as you start asking questions, and it's seen sometimes as support. Whereas I can speak out, like I said, and I already made my comment known about, Doug Ford. I think that was a real wrong move. I made my point known on that.
Do you think these cops are wrong to be cracking down on these protesters at the college campuses and making all the arrests?
I don't know. I don't know what led up to that. So that's the other thing is before.
Well, it's on a whole bunch of campuses. It's all over the country.
Yeah.
All over.
I think, though, what's happened is it's a bit like it's late in the game to do this now. And it's now you're going to have now. Yeah. They've allowed this to happen for so long that it's normalized it. So now it looks like, oh my God, the police are coming in and they're horrible people doing this. That's what some people may think. Other people are saying, get in there and bash them. I mean, there's a lot of students. I have some compassion, because some of these students, if you're allowed to do something over and over again, and then all of a sudden now they're coming in with attacking them. I don't know. I think that that's a bigger problem. That's what I'm saying is happening here now, is that if they don't rein in some of this, but I've talked to people in police that have done police, instruction of that. And they said, the issue is that you're trying to walk this fine line between, managing the protest and also not wreaking havoc in terms of people getting killed. Right. So Because then you're going to have, do we have anarchy in our hands, or do we have, I don't know. Like it's very, I will say this, very, very disturbing seeing what's happening in the States and what's going to be happening here.
Indeed. Yeah, there you go. I guess that's the way it is on this. What is it today? The 24th of April, 2024. It's just typical Wednesday.
April 2424, whatever that means.
Yeah, Gail, I'll give the final word to you. Leave the people with something inspirational and positive on this crazy day.
Well, I just encourage everybody to be curious and to also, ask more questions and seek out, sometimes challenge yourself to listen to another perspective.
There you go, folks.
It's how we grow and learn, because sometimes we may not always be right.
Yeah, and we're going to wrap it up there. Gail, stick around for just a minute. I need to talk to you just before you go away. And folks, I will be back tomorrow night. Same bat time, same bat station. Catch you on the flip side.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.